we have created all of this script here so that we can get the data from the server and load it into the player when the player connects to the game. And we also have code down here where when the player leaves the game, then we pack up the data from the player and we set it to the server, so we save it onto the server. Right? So now we want to test to see if this is actually working. But before we do, we need a way that we can have money, right? So that we can save it. And so one way that we can do this quickly is, instead of programming the gold ore over there and programming it so that when you touch it, your ore goes up, and then we'd have to come back here, program the banker so that he can change the gold ore into money, and then we can go ahead and see if it's actually saving the money. Instead of doing all of that, just for testing purposes, what we can do is just add a part right here where if you touch the part, then your money goes up. Right? And if we had something like that, then we can, just have the player run to the part and touch it so that his money goes up, and then we can leave the game and then join the game and see if all of this code here actually works, and if it is saving the data to the server so that we can, leave the game and then come back and it will start where we left off with regard to how much money he's collected. Right? So let's go ahead and add a part right here, and I'm going to do a sphere. Oh, no, I don't want a sphere actually. I want a block, and I'm going to scale. I'm going to make it gigantic. And then after I have my part, I'm going to go to my part, the one I just created, that should be here in Workspace. And then I right click, insert object, and go to script. And this is a script that you've seen from the simple obby game that we made earlier. And how does this script work? It goes local part is equal to script.parent. This is the script here, and this is the parent, right? So the part is now in this variable called part. And then we're going to put down here parts.touched connect function. In here we could put touched part. And then we're going to delete this little parentheses down at the bottom. And we're going to say if that happens, well, first of all, let's go ahead and just print something out, right? Touch the part. See if it actually works. And when we touch the part, this is going to fire off, and it's going to print touched part down here in the output window, which if you don't have, you can go to view, and then click on this output here. Right? So let's go ahead and test it, see if it works. And you see here how it says touched the part, right? Why did that happen, right? Why did this function fire off and this happened? It's because as the world is loaded, right, what happens is the server sends the data to the client, right, my computer here, and it starts to build the terrain, right? So it builds the terrain and the floor and all of that, and then it starts building the buildings. And the buildings get placed in where they're supposed to be placed, and then the people get placed where they're supposed to be placed, and then this part gets placed. And when the part gets placed, then bam, it touches the ground right here, right? And because it touches the ground, this connect fires, and it prints touch the part. Okay, so something that you should know, because later it's going to be important when we check if we touch something to check that if what we touched is the player. Right, and you're gonna see that in a little bit. So let me go ahead and what's that shadow there? Do you see that shadow right there? Oh, okay. And, I think that was the shadow, the sun coming down, and then Charlie's shadow on the piece. Okay. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and touch, and it's saying touch the part, right? Many times, 48 times. So this is actually working. So we're good. And now what we want to do is we want to increase the player's money. Okay, and if you remember back on the little model that we have here, what is going to be happening? Well, we run the game and this is not created yet. Okay, so we do have a Gold Rush store, but we don't have a folder for the player, and we don't have a value in the folder called money on the server yet, because this is the first time that we're playing the game, the first time we're connecting to the server. Okay, so all we have right now is we have a local on the client on my home computer, a leader stats folder. Okay, and in the leader stats folder we have this money variable, and when we first start in our very first game, money is going to be set equal to 0. So if we come back here to leader stats, you could see here that that's what this code says. It says when we connect, it's going to try to get from the data store the player's folder using the player's ID. It's going to save that data here in leader stats, but the very first time we play it, it's not, leader stats is not going to be equal to anything, because there is no player folder with the player's ID here in the Gold Rush store, right? So this get is not going to get anything. Leader stats is going to be empty. We're going to come here. It's going to be successful. Yes, it did work, but we didn't return anything from the server because there was nothing there. And then it says if there's leader stats data, then great. Go ahead and use the data and save it in the client's money variable right here. Right? So this is saying from the server, take that data from the server and save it here in the client's leader stats variable here. Okay, value, money.value. But if there is no leader stats data, like there won't be on the first time we play the game, then it's going to go into the else, and the money is going to be equal to 0 right here. Money is going to be set equal to 0, right? So this is if it's the first time we're playing. So it's going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to come over here, and if we touch it, what we want to do is we want to change this value to be a higher number. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we are going to need to get the player. Okay, and so maybe what we can do here is look it up. What I do is I go to Google, and whenever I don't know how to do something in Roblox, I type it in. I type in Roblox. Let's do it right here. Roblox, how to get player on touch, and hit enter. This one is a good one, right? So the development forum on Roblox is great, right? Lots of information on how to do different things on Roblox. So I'll go ahead and click on this first link. This is the question, and people have answered down here. Okay, and so I like this answer here. Well, yeah, I like this answer here. So I'm going to grab that if statement, put that if statement in here. If the touched part dot parents first child is a humanoid, then we're going to say get the player from the touched part and the parent's name. Is that all we need? Actually, I'm going to use this one here. Okay. Hold on, having a little trouble. Okay, so if player then. So what is this going to do? It is going to get the player from the character of the touched part. So let's go ahead and run this so I can show you how this exactly works. So it's loading everything. We can see that, right? And if we go to player, well, the touched part that is going to touch the brick here, well, that's going to touch this brick is going to be a part of the humanoid, right? So if we come here to workspace, we look at our player here. One of these guys is going to touch that part that's sitting there, and then we're going to get the player from the touched part, this guy's dot parent. The parent is up here, right? So this is my player. So get, and I'm sorry, this is my character. Okay, and the character is the player that's in the workspace. Okay, and the player that has the leader stats variable is right here in this folder that's outside of workspace. Okay, that's sitting right next to workspace. So this is the player, and this here is the character. Okay, and so when we say touch part.parent, that's this guy. .parent is this one. Remember, the player that's in the workspace is the character. So this here is the character, and then we're using get player from character. So if we give the character here, then this here will give us back the player that's here. Okay, and that's what we want, right? So now this player variable is going to contain this player, and that's what we want. Oh, I'm sorry, not that player, this player right here, right? And that's what we want because that's where the leader sets variable is. Okay, I mean the folder is. And that's the variable that we want to change, the money variable. So let's go in here, and now we say if player, right? If if it actually has something, right? Then let's go ahead and do something. And so what are we going to do? We're going to say player dot leader stats dot money dot value. And why do I have to say dot value? It's because when I come here to money is an object. And it has all of these different properties, and the one that we want to change is this value variable right here, right? We want to change it from being a 0 to being a different number. So I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to use this same value, and I'm going to say +1. Okay. And what does this? Let's stop the game here. What does this mean, right? Well, the first time we play, money.value is going to be equal to 0. Okay. And then the player touches the part, we get the player, and then the right side of the equal sign is executed first. Okay, so this side is executed first. It finds out what that's equal to, and then it saves the value inside of this variable here. And so what is money.value? It's 0, right? Because the player starts out with 0 in his leader stats variable because of the code that's here, right? And then we do +1. So 0 + 1 is 1. And we're saving that in player leader stats money.value. So over here, we are changing this to be 1. If we touch that block once, right? We touch that block again, this connect fires off, comes in here, and it says leader stats money.value. And what is that equal to? It's equal to 1 now. And we do 1 + 1, that's 2. So we save that 2 inside this value, right? This money.value, so that's 2. Touches it again, and then it does 2 + 1, so then money is equal to 3, and so on. So every time we touch it, money.value is going to be equal to 1 plus itself. Right. So the way that I like to read this in English is the money variable is going to be equal to what the money variable was equal to before +1. Okay. So if it was equal to 5, it's going to be equal to 6. If it was equal to 10, it's going to be equal to 1. Right. And I'm sorry. If it was equal to 10, it will be equal to 11. Right. And if it was equal to 13, it's going to be equal to 14, and so on. So this is what we call counting or incrementing this variable. Right. So we increase it by 1, and we do it by having the same variable on both sides of the equal sign, and then we add however much we want to add to the variable value. And so let's go ahead and test that out, see if it actually works, and then we can move on to the next part of seeing if the data is actually being saved to the server. So we're loading up, the part is loaded, touches the ground, but this time it doesn't say anything because in our script we say if player, then do this, right? And when the part touches the ground, the touched part is going to be the ground, and then it's going to get player from character, and it's going to use the ground, but the ground doesn't have is not a character, right? So then this is not going to return anything. Player is going to be equal to nothing. This is not going to be true, so it's not going to do this. Okay, so it's not going to do anything until I touch. So let's go ahead and let me touch that part. Yep, and you see this money value here? It's going up, right? See that? Okay, so that's the first part, and then now we can go ahead and move on to the next part in the next video.